Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Briarheart02 YouTube channel. Today, I am doing my first discussion video in a while. I have with me Joey Morgan
Yeet.
and Jacob Licklider.
Hello.
And today, we're going to be discussing the first three Hex stories in what's probably going to be a series of videos, I hope, that parallels Joey's Evelyn Smythe discussion videos.
Because you haven't had an original idea in your life.
Shut the fuck up, Joey. No.
Yes.
I'm just being a bastard.
Alright. So, yeah, today we're going to be discussing The Harvest, Dreamtime, and Live 34, the first three Hex stories.
I'm gonna make a prediction right now. We're gonna do the Night Thoughts video, and then you're just gonna give up on this series.
Nah.
Which would be a shame because we hadn't gotten to the Lovecraft
I
stories
won't.
yet.
I won't do that. I mean, it might be sometime between episodes because money, but anyway.
Gay.
Anyway, so let's talk about The Harvest first. What did you guys think of The Harvest?
Oh, I love The Harvest. Yeah, really great story. So obviously, I guess we'll be talking spoilers. As the biggest highlight of this story is not just the introduction of Hex, which is done really well, but the halfway mark, the end of part 2, the cliffhanger being what kind of story this actually is, which is hidden so perfectly because it is a Cyberman story, and the twist is just handled so absolutely brilliantly. Like it's a pretty standard story up to that point, companion introduction, pretty good. But then halfway through it becomes a Cyberman story, and you realize, well, it's been a Cyberman story the whole time, and it honestly is, I think, one of the greatest plot twists in a Doctor Who story, because not often do you get that situation where you're just like, oh, the part 1 cliffhanger, it's the Daleks, and the Daleks were in the title, so I knew this was going to happen. It's like, no, as long as you went into this story not knowing there were Cybermen in it, it's a huge deal by the end of part 2. So it's definitely my favorite thing about the story. And then, of course, there's Hex, who's just a really fun character and is introduced really nicely.
Jacob.
Not to be too much of an echo of what Joey said, I think The Harvest as itself, it works as a standalone because it's yes, it gets connected later on to the Reaping and the Gathering, which both have Cybermen on the cover. I think The Harvest, it works in a way that it's this very, let's be honest, it's a very dark tonal story, which sort of works for the Seventh Doctor, works for an Ace, especially if you do this post-VNA Ace like I do. Also does a really good job of homaging the Virgin books by sort of not having the Doctor or really Ace appear until the end of part 1. Like, you get a decent amount of time with Hex, with Hex's friends, sort of with just the life that Hex lives that make him feel really human. And something that I think Big Finish does really, really well, and really only could work if this was a Seventh Doctor story.
Yeah, I do love. You mentioned that it is in a way an homage to the VNAs, in that you get to really know the other characters before the Doctor really only appears at the end of part 1, and I love the end of part 1. Hex coming in the TARDIS, and he says, "Oh my god!" And the Doctor is, I can't remember the exact quote now because my mind's fucking blanking when I need it. But it's something along the lines of,
No, I'm the Doctor.
"But hello, all the same." I think.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So
It's basically, it's like, I'm not God, but hello. That's actually a really funny joke, especially with the implication that Seven has been You've seen Seven manipulating events of this one, like, through the story for the entire time.
Yeah. Even from the beginning, because obviously Ace is on a mission for the Doctor, and Ace is a pretty prominent character alongside Hex in part 1.
Actually, yeah, that is a pretty decent way to introduce Hex. Just have Ace going off on one of her missions, and Hex manages to stumble into it.
Yeah.
That's a clever way to introduce a Seventh Doctor companion. I never thought about that before, but that really is nice how it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
My thoughts now.
Oh yes, your thoughts.
On the whole, I enjoyed the Harvest. I think I enjoyed it upon re-listen better than I did the first time. It's a very nice Cyberman story, and once you get into the Cyberman stuff, you got some pretty deep, meaningful questions. Which what else did you expect from Big Finish during this time period in their long history? About the Cyberman twist in the middle. See, I kind of just predicted it was going to be a Cyberman story right from the start because as I was looking at the 51 to 100s, I saw the Reaping and the Gathering, then I saw the Harvest, and I was like, huh, that's probably a trilogy. So
So you just had to be. So
I
you just
just
had to be a bastard about it.
I
Okay.
just happened to put two and two together, basically, or two and one together. But
Okay.
yeah, so I was right, but
Although it is worth noting that
it is worth
that Cybermen aren't credited at all. Nothing is
no,
credited.
no,
Nothing on the cover gives away that it is a Cyberman
no,
story. Only
nothing.
really by looking at not even necessarily the Gathering, but only really the Reaping gives it away because the Gathering is only a half converted Cyberman on the cover. And it's not entirely um, blatant in saying that it's a Cyberman story. The only one that is blatantly a Cyberman story is the Reaping.
Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't even credit the Cybermen in the cast.
Yeah.
Um,
Although Briggsy does something else in this that I think they
But
credit.
yeah, the cover designs are similar
Briggs
enough.
doesn't actually get credited. No, he's
He's not
he's
credited.
nowhere on the. No, he's not credited for anything. He didn't direct. He didn't.
Briggsy
Did he
did
sound
direct a
design?
Cyberman story.
No, Gary
Well,
Russell did this one.
the similar design on the covers of each one because they do have a very similar format. That's what gave it away to me. But yeah, as a whole, it's a pretty enjoyable Cyberman story. I mean, some of it's retread from earlier Cyberman stuff, but you have the not so original idea because I'm sure a lot of people have come up with this of Cybermen wanting to deconvert themselves, which is actually done really well in this story. It's pretty fucking gruesome how it's described. Like, can we just talk about oh shit, what's his name? The unconverted cyber leader.
Oh, yes. I can't remember. Does he have a name?
He
Yeah.
does have a name. I can't remember what it is.
I can't either.
But anyway, there's a cyber leader in this story, and he's basically just had flesh grafted onto him, and the way it's described is fucking horrifying because you can see the metallic implants bulging underneath the flesh, and it's just fucking gross.
That's
And
another.
it's
That's another cool
yeah.
part of the story is that it's pretty big on body horror. Which is great because you don't get that in a lot of Cyberman stories, even where they have the ability to do so in novels and audio. Maybe not something you could do quite as much on TV. They go the full body horror route in this, and it works really well.
Right, this is what Big Finish's third Cyberman story.
I think because there's spare parts.
Sword of Orion was the first.
Sword of Orion.
And then there's the
Cyber-
Cyberman
wait,
miniseries.
yeah, did Cyberman come out before this?
No, this was Cyberman came out a little after.
Okay.
All right. Well, I know this was at least in production by the time Zagreus came out.
Yeah.
Hex is mentioned in Zagreus.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That. I had a thought, then I lost it. But yeah, The Harvest is really good. I enjoy it. I think
Ryan,
it's
you
a
have no thoughts. Don't
I
lie to us.
I think it's a nice blend of traditional Cyberman stuff, body horror, and some new elements that are pretty fun.
If I may, this actually in retrospect almost sets up quite a lot of Hex's arc, like overall.
Well, I'm not quite so far into the Hex arc yet. I haven't listened to most of his stuff. I've only listened to some of it, so
And
hush on.
the most obvious thing is the twist that is revealed in Thicker Than Water. Um,
Yeah, but we'll get to that on Joey's channel.
on Joey's channel.
Yeah, because it's an Evelyn story, you bastard.
All right.
Anyway,
Don't think
Um,
Philip Oliver isn't even in it.
Olivier.
Is it?
yeah, it's Olivier.
There's an I.
There's an I there, Brian.
Oh, whoops. Ooh.
Fuck.
I dumbass. Okay, so next up, the spiritual successor to the Sandman, Dream Time.
Fuck. No, we're going right to Live 34. No, fuck.
No, we're doing Dream Time.
I am not participating in this conversation, Brian.
Just
If
for
I
that,
may.
Joey, you can give your thoughts first.
Oh, fuck you. Okay, look, I'm just gonna be honest. Look, okay, so I knew the horrible reputation Dreamtime had going into this. I was like, it can't be that bad. There's no way. Like, you know, I enjoyed Minuet in Hell. You know, people said they hated that, and I ended up enjoying it. So I was like, hey, it happens with a lot of stories that people say they hate it, and I'm like, oh, wasn't that bad. So part one happened in this, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool idea. The Dr. Ace and Hex, you know, uncovering the mystery here, sort of, and they haven't really met the characters yet in part one, the supporting cast in this. So I'm just like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. They have some time to develop. It is a relatively slow-moving plot, though, but part one wasn't that bad. And then part two happened, and the characters met, and everyone just turned out to be an absolute fucking blank slate, mixed in for no reason, with ideas from the Sandman, of all fucking things, because it's written by the same writer. I don't know why he thought.
It's a trilogy of stories.
Yeah, I don't
Part of
know
the
why he.
trilogy.
I don't know why he thought he.
The
Had such
Galliari return.
I don't know why he thought he had such a great fucking idea with the Galliari, because they're not that interesting. They're not interesting at all, other than the Doctor is woven into their myths and legends. But fuck that. So that's kind of brought up sometimes, but they don't even go like full ahead with it. They just kind of mention it a couple of times, and it happens. Part two happens. It's an absolute slog by the end, and I totally zoned out after that point. I did not give a shit about anything that happened in the story after that point, and I can't even give too much of an opinion beyond that, because I thought it was shit from that point on.
You know what this feels like? This story feels like?
What does it feel like?
And I know Brian's going to hate me for this. Joey might not. Feels like a Virgin New Adventure, but one of the bad ones. Like.
Oh yes, like okay, you're right.
This
Starts
thing
off
has the same problems as the Pit, as
which
to a
more?
lesser extent Transit.
See, no, because you don't like Transit and you're a bastard, so fuck you.
Yeah, to a much lesser extent. Transit's okay in retrospect. It's kind of like the same problems that I have with Strange England, which is a VNA that has like really good ideas going for it, but not like being able to do anything interesting with them.
See, but here's the thing. Even beyond like, it's not even that there are so many interesting ideas. It's like fucking 20 Chekhov's guns laid out in front of me, and we chose like 5 of them to fire, and they were like the 5 like least interesting ones. And everything else is just left alone. Like, I really wish, like, the best thing about the Sandman is the Doctor being the Sandman. It's the legend that is woven into the Galliari, and they do.
It would
nothing
work with
it.
Seven. It would work really well
like
with Seven.
Seven could put the fucking fear of God into the Galliari, and they
I
do
pulled up
nothing.
the author's page. I pulled up the author's page, and that's what sort of got this thought going. Turns out he sent in several possible submissions for the Virgin books. All of them were rejected.
So that's
Why
why
am I-
it feels like a Virgin New Adventure.
Oh, why am I not fucking surprised?
He's the guy who wrote Shell Shock, a.k.a. Perry's stepfather is a rapist.
Peter Darville Evans, the man who hired Andrew Hunt, even saw this guy and was like, no, fuck that.
Yeah. The BBC hired him to write a couple of books.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that. And aren't the Galliari in one of them?
No, the Galliari.
Galliari can. Oh my god.
They're in a Benny audio.
So
that I listened
much.
to. Wait, do I own that Benny audio? Do I? I don't.
The Galliari are such a kind of cool idea, but not really. That is completely fucking wasted. Oh my god. But anyway, here are my thoughts on Dreamtime. So I agree with Joey. Part one, I was really into. I was like, okay, so this isn't gonna be like the Sandman. This isn't gonna totally suck dick. And
If only you
as soon
knew.
and as soon as I said that, part one ended, and it went to complete and total shit. So I listened to part two, and that's where I just fucking lost the story. I was like, what? You see, I listened attentively to The Sandman the first time I listened to it. Wasn't fucking good, but at least it was listenable. With Dreamtime, I cannot tell you what was going on. And I was literally making sure I was sitting there doing nothing else but paying attention to this story. And I couldn't fucking tell you what else happens other than lands on this planet. There's this monster that turns people to stone, and that's about fucking it. Some
Hex
mo-
is really. Oh, also, what the fuck is with this story when like
some
with the
psychic
characterization-
some psychic projection shit that doesn't make any sense. Like what the fuck?
Okay, but the characterization of Hex in this is like, what the fuck? He treats it as if Hex has been traveling with the Doctor for a long time. Because there's even
This
a point.
isn't.
This is his second story. This is Hex's second story, and there's a point where he says to the Doctor, "I'm the guy who kept saying, 'Oh my God,' when we first met. What was this, fucking yesterday?" Like,
There hasn't been. And Big Finish haven't even put anything in the gap. Like,
yeah, like it's just it goes. Harvest.
Well you can't because he
and
cut.
you know what?
Because the writer.
Live 34 even treats Hex.
We're not to Live
as if he
34
hasn't.
yet. Hold up, Jacob. Well,
Though I will say this isn't the worst characterization of Hex that we're gonna get.
But
Trust
Ace,
me.
here's the thing: Ace's characterization is all right. She treats Hex like a newbie, but Hex doesn't treat himself like a newbie.
well, there's a scene where Hex is the writer's fucking contradicting himself anyway because there's a scene where Hex is just amazed that there are space lizards. Like if you think you're so used to this, why are you fucking amazed that there are space lizards? Like what the fuck?
Space lizards isn't that far out of the realms of human imagination.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's a pretty common
I mean,
idea.
this is like for the Seventh Doctor, who goes up against gods of the universe, like Lovecraftian horrors, like every other week. Space lizards is the out of like.
Hex in this story is just like, alright, I've seen so much, man. Oh my god, space lizards? You can't say that! What? Oh, it's just bad writing.
Are we done with this bullshit yet? Can we move on?
Alright, yeah, sure.
Oh, thank
Word angers me on very primitive levels. Anyway, Live 34.
May I? Because Joey
Yes.
had the
Yes,
first
Jacob.
words of all the other ones.
Yes.
Live
Fine.
34 is probably the quintessential experimental Big Finish story. It's basically the reverse Happiness Patrol. Instead of following the Doctor as he incites rebellion, you have this sense of like closeness into the story because it's presented as a series of 4 radio broadcasts taking place over about a week, on this colony world. Sort of, it's sort of like the way video games work is that because you're drawn into the action. Well, you're the listener. You can really imagine yourself as someone on this planet, and it's not afraid to essentially go far into being like how the limits of journalism. Like a lot of we only hear through stuff because of it's being included in the reports. And there are quite a lot of things that they're not quite left unanswered, but they all come out of nowhere because, well, if you weren't in the action, like following the Doctor and Ace and Hex, as the just as the people, inciting the rebellion, you wouldn't see this coming. Also, it's rather similar to the book Cat's Cradle Warhead in that it's a very human villain type story. This isn't nearly as like sci-fi. The aliens are the villain. No, this is a very much the Doctor's going in to create some political hell, and I love that. It's really well done.
Yeah, I love the introductions of all the characters in this. The way everybody is brought. I mean specifically the main cast. Where the news report is going on about political rivals and the parties that are going against each other, and then now the leader of this political party is here with us today. How may I refer to you? And then McCoy comes in. I am the Doctor, and there are great little moments like that where we don't know who the rebel queen is until Ace starts speaking, and we know Sophie Aldred's voice, and then we don't know who I can't remember the reporter's name, the one that interviews Hex.
Charlotte Singh, I think.
That's it. I think so.
I pulled up the cast list.
And they don't say any of their names until we already hear their voices. So I think the reveals are done really well, and all of them are perfectly timed. I remember when I was first listening to this, I was talking to you, Jacob, at the time, like texting you, and I was saying, like, oh wow, this is really cool. There are no like parts in this, and then you were like, well, the radio breaks are like the fading out and fading in are the part breaks, and I'm like, oh wow, really? Because it works much better as just like one continuous story.
Yeah, and there are points where you can hear in those breaks, like snips, very minor snippets of the Doctor Who theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed that the first time I listened to it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really cool. Is that like it's mostly presented as one big thing, and you're just following these events through the news reports, and it's super interesting. I was talking to someone after I listened to this. He's a Doctor Who fan, and I said, there is no way I can possibly describe this story to you that will prepare you for the experience of listening to Live 34, because it's really
very dark.
Yeah, and it's unique in every way. Like I could tell you every plot detail, and you will still be taken aback by how the story is presented. It's just so interesting and so unique.
Well, I think, and shit, this is gonna make me sound like fucking most asshole man alive, but I think, especially in today's political climate, it's a very relevant story to listen to. I mean, when I was listening to it, I found myself comparing certain characters to political figures in the real world. So, yeah, I think it's a very politically relevant story even today. So,
well, I think you're not wrong on that. It's very timeless in the fact that like a lot of the messages, how the news itself trying to get at the story can even distort the facts. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Unintentionally, which is a very important message for today. Society.
And the fact that it's all presented through a news broadcast where they're interviewing Ace, and certain things are censored out, like the general public isn't going to get any more from that interview. Like what they censor out is what you are not allowed to hear, what you're not allowed to see, and
even the audience, we don't know what
exactly. And I love that. It's such a great way to present the story, and I agree with Jacob.
It's very dystopian and not far off from our own society, and that's what's scary about it to me.
I gotta disagree there, because I think what Jacob said is more accurate, that it's timeless, that you could compare it to any political climate.
Yeah. The reason why it doesn't feel so far off, because it's getting at problems that are just general problems with the base level.
Yeah, no matter what, your media is always going to be biased, and no matter where you get it from, they're always going to distort the facts to fit exactly what they're going to. And that's why it's timeless. It's not specifically relevant to now. You're not going to.
There's most definitely some dystopian elements here. Like there's some mentions of other news broadcasters being shut down because they're being.
It's just kind of that general media-driven story taken to a bit more of an extreme, and it works really well. I absolutely adore it.
Okay, well, that's enough about the political subtext. Let's get into.
This story is nothing but political
Right,
subtext.
right, but
Political
I want to
Tyler,
specifically wait.
think of the word you just used. It's not subtext. We're not talking subtextually.
They're literally giving us a political situation, and we have to
We're
interpret
talking
the way it's
textually.
given to us. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm talking about Hex now
Do we?
because I have some stuff to say
Okay, can I
about.
go last because because I know where Hex. I know I have the complete Hex journey because I've listened to all of his arc stories.
As long as you don't spoil shit for later on.
I won't.
Wait, are we just talking about Hex as a whole right now?
No, we're talking about Hex in Live 34 at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Because I have some stuff I want to say. So usually by I don't know the third or fourth story, they're in the new companions sort of settle into their roles, and I really like how Hex settles into his role in this one because he's doing a lot of what Ace was doing in the Harvest, and it sort of just feels like the the whole thing has come full circle, and now Hex is an actual official member of the TARDIS crew, and I don't know, part of me really fucking enjoyed that, and I thought it was some pretty nice character progress for Hex.
I agree. I think he settled into the role nicely, despite the mischaracterization in Dreamtime of him already kind of settling in. This is really the story that sort of solidified that, and any stories beyond, the next is Night Thoughts, right?
The next story is Night Thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he totally blends into the team at that point, and he really is his own character by this point.
Though we'll have to
he develops
before we do a Night Thoughts video. We're gonna have to do Thicker Than Water because Thicker Than Water came in between those two. Like that's where we are in just timeline general stuff.
Okay, Jacob.
I'm gonna fucking agree with that because if you want to look at that shit, you can look at Joey's channel and wait for that shit. I'm not sure if he does, but doesn't Hex find out he's that woman's son later on anyway?
Yeah, it's later.
So yeah, it doesn't really matter to this specific series, but
Yeet. So
would be an OCD, Jacob. My fucking god.
But that's part of my charm.
No.
anyway, god damn it. Okay, is there anything else we have to talk about for Live 34, Brian?
Nah. So, thoughts on the whole first Hex trilogy as a whole?
Obviously, I think we're all going to agree that our favorite of this is Live 34 and our least favorite is Dreamtime.
Yeah, that's a given. Like
Yeah.
Dreamtime, skip it. Like you
really don't need it.
No,
Like,
I
there-
went to the entire Hex stuff. Nothing in that story comes back.
There's nothing you need there at all.
It is pure filler. Whereas like Live 34, you kind of like Harvest and Live 34, you both need for Hex introduction and then some of the Hex developments, like
See, but
especially
I think if you want to be really OCD, you should listen to Dreamtime to keep up with the oh my god counter.
And even if you are a completionist and you want to listen to all of it, like if you absolutely have to buy Dreamtime just to listen to part 1, because I will admit that is the one thing Dreamtime has over Sandman is the first part is actually fucking decent.
Oh yeah, it has a great atmosphere to it, and I do love the back and forth of the Dr. Ace and Hex.
Part 1 has a good setup. But
whereas the Sandman just throws you right into a shitty story, and it's like, ooh, who is the Doctor?
Who is the Sandman?
Where it's like, obviously Evelyn fucking knows that the Doctor is going to be the Sandman, but not nearly as horrible as the Galliari describe him.
We are the Galliari. We're fucking the most undercooked villain you have ever met.
Okay, then. You want to close this out, Brian?
I mean, I think that's it right there. Happy No Nut November, guys.